Hello, glad to see you on my channel. I really value it. And today I want to share with you a wonderful story. It's a dramatic story that will come as a total shock to everybody. It is a really amazing story. So enjoy watching it.
Cara woke up to the sound of the alarm clock. She struggled to open her eyes. Her hands were longing to press pause on the alarm clock and sleep for another half hour. Her lack of sleep continued year after year. The noise outside kept her awake, or the neighbors were having a party at night. When she turned to the other side, she remembered her main pain. Her husband didn't come home for the night again. His place is empty. This too went on year after year. Cara got out of bed and headed for the kitchen. Her youngest daughter Lucy was already sitting there. It was obvious that Lucy hadn't had a good night's sleep either. "Mommy, can I stay home today?" "Why?" Cara asked curiously. "I didn't sleep well. I have a headache." "I could sleep another hour," Lucy said. "I didn't sleep well either. I want to stay home too. But who's going to go to work instead of me?" "Do you think I'm working so that you can skip classes at your own discretion?" "Mom, you can skip a day too. They'll take care of it without you. We'll sleep together." Lucy walked over to her mother and hugged her from behind as well. Cara poured herself a cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table. It would be nice to live in a spacious house, away from those noisy neighbors and noisy highways. You fall asleep in the evening and wake up in the morning to birdsong instead of the annoying ringing of the alarm clock, Cara dreamed aloud. Lucy liked the idea, and that the house should be 3 stories high, with its own basement and attic. There should be a big vegetable garden with perennial trees, behind which not a single living soul could be seen. And also that there was a river not far away. Above the river hangs a high rock, from which begins a bridge to the other side. And on the other bank there is a dense forest. There lie elves and other fairy tale characters. Lucy continued her fantasies in unison with her mother and could not stop. "Hey, beautiful, stop dreaming. Make yourself some cocoa and then get ready for school." Cara interrupted her daughter and instantly returned to reality. "Didn't Daddy come?" Lucy asked cautiously. "No, he didn't," her mother replied. "John didn't come home last night either," Lucy added. "I know. Your sister Sofia's been out all night too," Cara added. "So, Mom, you and I are the only ones who sleep at home all the time. Maybe we're crazy," Lucy asked her mother. "Don't you start with me, my daughter, or my heart won't stand it and I'll die. And you'll all stay out all night," said Cara. Lucy made herself some cocoa, kissed her mother on the cheek, and ran to her room to get ready for school. Cara watched her youngest daughter and realized that she had grown up considerably, judging by her jokes. "Maybe you and I are crazy." What a deep hint lies in that joke, Cara thought. She went back to the bedroom and began to slowly pack to take her daughter to school. But the idea of a big house away from civilization kept her on her toes. It would be good to realize it. Then maybe her husband, grown son and grown daughter wouldn't be able to stay so often unknown overnight. Or they would have to make their own choice. Live in a remote village with a permanent overnight stay at home, or move away from the family and spend the night anywhere. These were just Cara's morning thoughts at that point. Cara drove her daughter to school, then came to her office. After sitting in her office for a bit, she realized that she was in no condition to work today. On her desk is a large stack of papers that she has to check and sign today. She looked at this stack and a protest rose up inside her. Every single day is spent struggling with these papers, and at home it is the same picture. This is the time when life goes by. It all seemed unfair to her. Cara decided to do something today that she had never done before. She took a marker and a blank piece of paper. With a slight movement of her hand, she wrote a couple words in large letters and placed them on the stack of papers. Then picked up her purse and left the office without looking back. Toward lunchtime, her immediate supervisor tried desperately to reach her, but after several unsuccessful attempts, he decided to come in person and inquire about the fate of the stack of papers. As a result, instead of ready audited reports, the manager saw a large inscription on blank paper: "Go to the woods." Cara got into her car and was about to drive out of the parking lot. The car behind her honked continuously. Then Cara stuck her head out of the car window and shouted at the top of her voice, "Go all of you into the woods." The man in the next car clearly heard her slogan. He drove into the roadway right after her, caught up with her on purpose, and when he was on the same level, he twisted his finger at his temple and stepped on the gas. This did not upset Cara in the least. She only shouted once again, "Go to the woods." Cara intended to spend today in bed. Whether she would be able to sleep, she wasn't sure. But the mere fact that she was able, for the first time in her life, to forget about everything seemed like an accomplishment. And at home, she found her husband Max. Apparently, Max hadn't gotten much sleep either. He had just gotten out of the shower and was pouring himself a strong coffee. Seeing his disgruntled wife, he was a little upset with surprise. He would like to be home alone now, not to endure another interrogation of his wife. To avoid her questions, he tried to change the subject. "Do you want coffee? Drink it yourself." Cara mumbled and headed for the living room. Moments later, the husband and wife heard the sound of the door opening. It was John, the eldest son of the family. "Where have you been?" Cara asked angrily. "We were celebrating Anthony's birthday with the guys, and then I decided to stay at their place for the night," John answered. "Why didn't you go to work?" his mother asked. "Why didn't you go to work?" the son countered. But in the next second, John felt awkward. To smooth things over, he picked up the pace again. "I don't want to work for my uncle all my life like you and my father. That's the question of why I'm not at work. You better agree to my favorable offer. We mortgage the apartment in the bank. I take a loan, start my business, and in a year you get a bigger apartment. Bonus, I move out of your place," said John. "What kind of businessman are you? You first at least gain experience, learn to be responsible at least for yourself, and then you can only dream of business," said Max. "Yes, my father is right. It's too early for you to start your own business," said Cara. Then she came close to her husband and whispered in his ear. "You should learn to take your own smart advice," she hissed. "Well, if that's the case, then get off my back with your nagging. I'm going to have to build relationships with the other guys to get them on board. That takes time and energy. So don't ask me where I'm sleeping or who I'm spending time with," John muttered. Not 2 minutes later, the front door of the apartment opened again. This time, none of the family had to guess. It was Sopia, John's sister. "Where have you been all night?" Cara asked her adult daughter. "Mom, I'm old enough to stay with my friends sometimes." "You'll be an adult when you have a family of your own, a husband and kids." "What husband and kids? Who's going to provide for them? If you buy me an apartment, it'll be easier. By the way, I've been looking at a 2-bedroom in a new building for a long time. You and Dad promised me 3 years ago. When will you buy it?" Sopia turned to her parents. "At that time, life was different, and now we don't have such an opportunity. Now you and John should ask your parents if we need any help," the mother added. Further arguments in this family followed the same pattern. Each of them needs something different from the others. At the same time, no one cares whether the family has the ability to fulfill the whims of each family member or not. Cara has been trying to convey this idea to her relatives for several years, but all to no avail. Today, she didn't bother to explain anything. As soon as the argument began to gain momentum, she banged her fist on the table and said, "Go to the forest." The housemates fell silent and looked at each other. They had never seen Mom so bold before. While they were thinking about what to say to Mom, she stated her position. "And in general, even if there is the slightest opportunity, no money for you. Let each of you buy your own apartment. If you continue this conversation, I will sell the apartment today and buy a house in the village. If anyone disagrees, then let him go to the woods," said Cara and went to the bedroom. Tonight in this family was no different from other evenings. Everyone resented the other and was on his own. But suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Cara deliberately did not hurry to open it, in case it was one of her son's or daughter's friends. Or maybe it was one of her husband's friends, who urgently wanted to do some work at night. But none of the family members were in a hurry to open the door. Cara quietly resented the profanity and went to open the door. In front of her stood a woman and a middle-aged man, both dressed expensively and stylishly. "Good evening. Sorry to disturb you," the woman said. Apparently, the unexpected guests also had good manners. Cara stared at them with a questioning look. The unfamiliar woman continued the conversation. "My name is Ariana. This is my husband, Archie. We ended up here by accident. To be honest, we've been looking for an apartment in this building for a long time. Are you selling your apartment by any chance? The woman asked. Cara was not confused. We are. We have a 2-bedroom, 60 square meters. True, the house is more than 40 years old, but that doesn't affect the value of the apartment, she said. Can we take a look at the apartment? Archie asked. Cara silently invited the guests inside the apartment and gave them a little tour. The unexpected guests kept praising the most typical apartment without renovation and with a narrow corridor. According to them, it was as if everything had been thought out for them. Cara thought they were just extremely polite people, but looking closely at their reactions, it seemed to her that her typical old apartment had a very high value indeed. How much do you want for it? Ariana asked. Cara was not confused here either. 10 million, she said calmly. The members of Kira's family looked at each other in silent shock. Of course, before that there was no talk of selling the apartment, especially not for 10 million, while the maximum price of such an apartment is 4 or 5 million, if it is with modern repairs, and the buyers are not confused either. Archie, what do you say? I would have discussed the details of the deal by now, and I wouldn't drag it out, Ariana added. Since you like it, let's just settle on this apartment, Archie replied. At the end of the evening, it was decided to make the deal in 3 days. Unexpected guests did not discuss the unrealistically high price of the apartment. And Kira's housemates were still in shock from the upcoming changes. Her husband resented why she did not consult with him. The children asked a lot of questions about where they would move to now. Kira decided not to bother with the answers. She really wanted to sleep. So to all her family, she gave a short answer. Go to the woods, and went to her bedroom. Over the next week, the deal went through. Kira herself was in charge of the whole process. As soon as she received the requested amount in her hands, went to the real estate company. She was glad that God had heard her prayer for a quiet and spacious house. But she had no idea of the changes that awaited her on the threshold of life. Kira and Max spent weeks looking for a new house. Max liked almost all of the proposed options, and Kira did not approve of any of these houses. Max was getting a little tired of looking for a house and didn't want to go to any more viewings. What's wrong with it? All the amenities are there, not far from the center. The plot is enough. Are you looking for some kind of English castle? How many more do we have to go through? Max is indignant. It's not about houses, they're all nice. But for some reason my soul does not lie on them, said Kira thoughtfully. You women are always inventing a problem where there can't be one. What do you mean your soul does not lie? Are you choosing a friend or a life partner? A house is chosen very simply. Where is it located? Is there enough space? Do you need repairs or not, and so on? The house is chosen with the mind, not the soul, you stupid woman, indignant husband. No, it's not true. Besides all these repairs and distances, there is something else that matters. You just watch in silence, you'll feel it, Kira said. My God, give me patience. Max was indignant again. After long arguments, the couple decided to go to the real estate company once again and familiarize themselves with the new offers. They were met by a realtor named Natalie. She usually works very patiently with clients, but this was the first time she had met someone as meticulous and uncertain as Kira. Natalie had given Kira exactly 12 viewings last week. Kira didn't respond to any of them. Then Natalie got seriously angry and was ready to give up on this client. But Kira had faith in realtor Natalie, so she went back to her again today. If you had said specifically what parameters of the house you were interested in, it would have been much easier. And so if you just want to drive around looking, I can offer one option. If we have a long time hanging. This house is located at a distance of 2 hours from the city. If you are interested, I will give you the address. You can go and see it, said realtor Natalie. Come on, we'll go right away. Kira suddenly perked up. Natalie refused to accompany the client to the viewing because she was not sure that this poor house was unlikely to ever be sold. She wrote the address on a piece of paper, took out the house key, and handed it to Kira. Natasha, why didn't you go with the clients to see the house? The manager asked. Well, no, sorry. This house has been on the market for almost a year. I've been there several times in that time. And you know what? This is not an ordinary house. Something happens to a person in it that takes 3 days to recover, Natalie whispered to her supervisor. Is there some kind of crime story in there? The supervisor asked. No, there's something more interesting. They say that in this house all secrets come to light, Natalie said and rounded her eyes. It's like the plot of a sci-fi movie. How is that possible? Is there a lie detector built into the walls? Laughed the leader. Oh, Harry, you may not believe me. As many times as I've been in this house, every time I've been in it, I felt the presence of some kind of power. I think it would be a good home for a woman with a difficult personality, Natalie said. And she was right. At this time, seeing the new terrain, Cara was very surprised. The intersection, the solitary tree, the bench under it, the combination of simple and luxurious houses, the whole picture was just like the one she had drawn in her childhood imagination many years ago. And even the colors matched. Cara liked to paint any space in burgundy, and burgundy is the predominant color in this village. Here she and her husband finally reached the right house. The first thing Cara noticed was the obvious signs of life in the house. Even though Natalie's realtor said the house hadn't been lived in for years, but there was no grass on the outside of the gate. The gate itself was shiny, as if someone had cleaned it thoroughly before Cara arrived. They opened the door with the key and went inside. Max was expecting a long tour, so he sat on a bench in the courtyard. Around the house was a large vegetable garden, reminiscent of a real forest. Here, every tree is wider than a man's girth. That's how many hundreds of years old they are. The house was really huge. It had 2 floors, plus a basement and an attic. Cara was glad that the house was exactly what her youngest daughter Lucy had dreamed of. The house wasn't empty. It was unknown who had lived there before, but the family had left some old furniture, pictures on the wall, and some statuettes. Overall, the house looked like an old fairy tale castle from the inside. Cara immediately noticed the silence that dwelled inside the house. Here, away from noisy neighbors and city life, she would definitely sleep well. So the decision was made. She immediately went out into the yard and announced to her husband, "Max, this is our house. That's it. We're buying it." "Are you sure? This house is very expensive for the village. It's a long way from here, and I suppose we'll have to do some renovations inside," Max resented. "You're right. We're giving all the money from the apartment to this old house, but for some reason I want it that way. If someone doesn't like the house, they can go to the woods. Thankfully, the forest is now under our windows," said Cara and looked at the large vegetable garden with admiration. Cara's family moved into their new home a week ago, but there is no limit to the indignation of the older children. "Mom, I need a car," declared daughter Sopia in the morning. "So you earn your own money, buy one and drive," replied Cara. "With my expenses, it is unrealistic to save money, but Naomi's parents helped. You should also tighten your belts and make me a gift," said Sopia dreamily. "You got a big mouth. Money has to work. If my parents had free money, I would take it to put it to work. And then in a year or 2, I would return it with the income," John added. "Why do you only want money from your parents? I think you should develop and earn your own goals and ambitions," Lucy said. "Lucy, you're too young to teach us. When you grow up, you'll realize how important parental support is," Sopia said. Cara was tired of the children arguing about money, so she silently retired to her room. She occupied a large room on the 2nd floor of the house, with windows to the vegetable garden. Now she could spend days in there and enjoy the silence, but she rarely gets to do that, because she has to drive her youngest daughter Lucy to the sports center every day. She is doing well, and the coaches denigrate her bright future. Against the background of older children, who are not particularly disposed to development, Lucy gives great hope to her parents. As for the lifestyle of the family, nothing has changed with the move. As before, where it is good, he sleeps there. On the contrary, Max began to linger even more often in his strange companies or in the night urgent tasks, which he himself calls so. Tonight was a restless night for Lucy. She usually slept soundly, but tonight she was awakened by a low whispering that came from somewhere not far away. Lucy thought that, as usual, John or Sopia had brought a friend to the house, but when she listened carefully, she noticed that the voices were not her own. She decided to go out of her room and check where the whispers were coming from. Lucy didn't turn on the light so as not to wake her mother. It was a full moon tonight. The soft blue moonlight falls from the window and the outline of the interior of the house can be clearly seen. Lucy walked around all the rooms and made sure no strangers were in the house. She stopped in the living room on the second floor and listened again. There seemed to be whispers coming from the attic. Lucy took the candle from her room, lit it, and slowly climbed up the wooden stairs to the attic. She had already been here during the day and was convinced that there was nothing unusual here. Stacks of old books, an abandoned trunk, old paintings covered with thick cloth. Everything here reminded her of a creative workshop of an enthusiastic person. And now Lucy saw a completely different picture. The room was bright, as if it were not night. As soon as Lucy entered, the whispering disappeared. She scrutinized every corner of the attic and found no one. She decided to go back to her room, but as she reached the attic door, she heard a soft rustling behind her back. Her gaze fell on a thick book with a bright velvet cover that lay on top of a stack of books. Lucy was very surprised because just now that book had not been there. She was curious, so she walked closer. It was not a book at all, but a handwritten diary. Lucy sat down on an old creaky chair and began to leaf through the diary. Judging by the entries, the diary was not written with a ballpoint pen, but with ink that had been used in the last century. Lucy was even more curious. She opened the pages of the diary at random and began to read the entries. The first lines took her breath away, and she couldn't stop. "My name is Amalia. I was born in 1856. I am now 12 years old. My family recently bought this house and we are now actively fixing it up. We were warned that big changes were in store for our family in this house. Indeed, the changes did not take long. I will write about them in detail tomorrow. Today, my mother brought a hereditary sorceress to our house and she performed a ritual. At the end, the sorceress said that now in our house there is no place for lies. Now in this house, everything that is secret is revealed. That's all for today. I need to go to bed early because I have a martial arts class tomorrow." At the end of the entry was another name, Amalia, 1868. Lucy closed the journal and set it aside. Inside her, she felt as if she knew this girl, Amalia. Then she went back to her room and began to compare her life with the life of this heroine. Almost everything matched. Lucy has had a passion for power sports since childhood, and this Amalia had a passion for martial arts. In her diary, she had separate chapters for each of the family members. Lucy decided to read the rest of the entries another day. For now, she needed to find out the secret of the house's witchcraft. If she found any confirmation, it would make sense to read the diary further, or maybe it was just some dreamy girl's fantasy. Lucy spent all night thinking about the diary entries and didn't get much sleep. But her mother was in a good mood. In the morning, she took her daughter to school and went to work. At home, the picture was the same. Her husband did not come home for the night again. Sopia came home drunk at midnight. John didn't show up until the morning. Lucy spent the whole night thinking about her diary entries and didn't get much sleep. But her mother was in a good mood. In the morning, she took her daughter to school and went to work. At home, the picture was the same. Her husband did not come home for the night again. Sopia came home drunk at midnight. John didn't show up until the morning. Lucy spent the whole night thinking about her diary entries and didn't get much sleep. But her mother was in a good mood. In the morning, she took her daughter to school and went to work. At home, the picture was the same. Her husband did not come home for the night again. Sopia came home drunk at midnight. John didn't show up until the morning. The family didn't gather at home until the evening. By then, Max had arrived with a bouquet of flowers for his wife. Cara was already taking it all very calmly. She ignored her husband's outstretched bouquet and asked him to put it in a vase himself. Before the spouse asked, Max himself began to explain his absence strenuously. "Yesterday after work, I rushed home, but right outside the office, I was stopped by Billy. 'Cara, can you hear me?' So Billy stops me and tells me that his elderly mother is in the hospital. His mom's supposedly in a bad way, but he's a friend, you know. He asked me to be there for him, and I couldn't say no. That's why I couldn't come home. And then my cell phone died, and I couldn't even make a call. Cara, you're not mad at me, are you?" Max was being fawning. "How's Billy's mom doing? Is she going to get back on her feet, or will you have to stay by Billy's side more than once?" My wife asked Riley. "You're quite right. The doctors say her condition is critical. I advised Billy to prepare for the worst. Well, old man, you have to be realistic. So if Grandma's going to be dead in the next few days, I'm gonna have to stick around for a couple more days with my friend. In fact, I think you should take your stuff and move in with Billy until his mom either gets back on her feet or dies. Cara, don't start. Do you have any idea how ridiculous your lies look from the outside? What makes you think I'm lying? You're always getting yourself worked up. If you don't believe me, you can call Billy yourself, Max said. Cara served dinner but didn't eat it herself. She cited her lack of appetite and decided to watch TV in the living room. But there was a surprise waiting for her there. When she turned on the light, she saw on the sofa a very bright girl with long dark hair. One would have thought the girl was Sofia's friend that she had brought with her. But Sofia's friends never sat in Kira's house in a blatantly provocative negligee. As Cara stood at a loss, the girl herself spoke first. So Kira, still believing your husband's fairy tales? Billy's mother died 5 years ago. How could you forget? You were at her funeral, said the girl. I'm sorry, who are you? Kira asked, confused. You're finally starting to ask intelligent questions. Who am I? According to your husband, I'm sometimes Billy, sometimes his boss Jacob, sometimes the evil inspector who keeps him up all night. One time I was even his broken down car he spent all night on the highway. And usually I'm some urgent case that claims max attention all night, the girl said. I had a hunch about that, but I couldn't find any evidence before. What do you want from him? He's old enough to be your father, isn't he? Kira asked. I don't really want anything from him. He's the one chasing me. If he doesn't come to me tomorrow, I won't be too upset. I told him that too, but he sat on his knees and begged me not to be so cruel to him. If you don't believe me, ask him yourself, the girl said. Well, if it's so serious, you can take him back to your place. I'll pack his things for him now. Max, come here. Your Schlendra and I have come to a compromise about you, Kira shouted towards the kitchen. Max was surprised at his wife's strange rhetoric and came running into the living room. Kira, you wanted to see me. Did you want to talk about something? Max asked in a kind tone. Yes, I'm talking to your mistress. She says you begged her on your knees. I decided not to torture you anymore and let you go to her forever. Can you pack your stuff yourself or can I help you? Kira asked. Mother, have you lost your mind? What girl? Who were you talking to? Max couldn't understand anything. Then Kira realizes that only she can see the girl in the negligee, but her husband can't. Hey Schlendra, confirm to your elderly admirer our dialogue with you, otherwise he disowns you right in your eyes, said Kira, looking at the empty couch in the corner of the living room. Max looked at all of this in amazement for a while, then took Kira's hand and led her into the bedroom. Cara, dear, you seem really tired. You are dreaming about some leftist woman. You think you are talking to her. You should go to bed now and get some rest. Come on, I'll give you a back massage, said her husband. Cara, meanwhile, was getting quietly angry at her husband's denial of the obvious. There she is, sitting there half naked, she said and pointed to the couch. Cara, either you're joking or you're really tired. There's no one here but you, resented Max. Indeed, this was the first time that anything secret had come to light. Now the family would have to get used to this state of affairs. Lucy had seen what had happened yesterday with her father and mother. She saw this strange woman in the living room. She also saw how her father and other family members were blind to her. Now she has no doubt that what was written in the diary seems to be true. Today she decided to play in the yard. At some point her ball rolled into the street and Lucy ran after it. In the street, she noticed a gray-haired grandmother watching her from the house across the street. Lucy loves grandmothers. She decided to go and say hello to this old woman. It's as if she's been waiting for this curious girl. Hello, do you live here? Lucy asked. I do. Come into the yard, my plum is ripe, I'll treat you, said the grandmother. Lucy went into the yard. In the shade of the trees stood garden furniture, on the table fruit and some books. Apparently, the grandmother is not an ordinary person here either. What's your name? Do you have a granddaughter or a grandson? Because I don't know anyone here. It's time for me to make friends, Lucy said. Grandma Cindy, you can call me that. I have grandchildren in town. I've lived here alone for 30 years. Who are your parents? I think they bought this house in a hurry, said Grandma Cindy. My dad's name is Max. My mom's name is Cara. You must also have an older sister and an older brother. Yeah, have you seen them yet? Lucy asked. I don't need to see anyone. I just know. This house usually has similar families moving in. I'd assume your older brother and older sister are taking their time living their lives. Is your father likely to have a woman on the side? Grandma Cindy asked. It seems so. Yesterday, this other woman even talked to my mother, but my dad denies it. How do you know all this? Lucy was surprised again. Baby, I'm almost 98 years old. This house was standing when I was still walking. Back then, grown-ups were telling each other the story. Then I witnessed two very similar families living here. It was all the same, Grandma Cindy said. Where did they all go in the end? Lucy asked with terror in her eyes. I don't mean to scare you, but I see you're a smart and strong girl. You'll get over this truth somehow. The thing is, almost a century and a half ago, one of the owners of this house performed a mysterious ritual that took away the ability to lie. And it was necessary because this family had a huge wealth. It was brought as a gift to the youngest daughter of the family. The elders began to claim some of that wealth. A great conflict arose in the family. The mother and father could not resolve it. The conflict intensified. The siblings were on the verge of killing each other. Then the mother of the family went to a magician who came up with a special ritual. If the whole family could be honest with each other, the wealth would not harm them. If they can't, they will kill each other, and the wealth will remain somewhere in the hiding places of the house. It will be found by the most honest member of the new family, said Grandma Cindy. What? There's more treasure buried here. Lucy's eyes widened. Yes, but no one knows about it but me. Everyone who knows is long dead. The previous few families found it, but failed at the task of being honest amongst themselves. In the end, they naturally drove each other out of the house and the wealth went unused, Grandma Cindy said. Lucy said goodbye to Grandma Cindy and returned home. She sat in the living room and pondered what had happened. Everything fit together. The diary didn't seem to be lying, and Grandma Cindy didn't look like a crazy person or a joker. She would hardly make up such a story. Lucy decided to watch further as events would unfold. After yesterday's practice, Lucy's coach called Cara and asked her to meet with him. Lucy was aware of what the conversation would be about, but she didn't want to please her mother before the time. Let the coach tell her it would be twice as pleasant for her. After yesterday's practice, Lucy's coach called Cara and asked her to meet him. Lucy knew what the conversation would be about, but she didn't want to please her mother before the time. Let the coach tell her it would be twice as pleasant for her. Cara, we never cease to admire your daughter's talent and will. That's why we decided to prepare her for the International Junior Championship. We don't have much time, only 3 months. Please encourage her. If she takes one of the prizes, all your efforts will pay off tenfold, the coach said. Lucy heard all that. An international tournament is a good challenge for her, especially if she is confident in her abilities. And if you train hard in 3 months, you can safely claim the main title. After walking outside for a while, Lucy returned home. Surprisingly, by some miracle, the whole family is together today. Her mother and father hadn't spoken since the day a strange woman had shown up in the living room and told Cara all of Max's secrets. Sopia was on fire today. She once again said that she needed either her own apartment in the city or a private car, and by all means, her parents should take care of it. Cara had long ago grown tired of arguing with her daughter. John, on the other hand, was not yet. In the middle of the argument, he said, "And you find a normal man, marry him and ask him for money. That's what everybody does. What's your problem? Look at you. You're beautiful, smart, good at men's issues. Why don't you monetize all that?" John said, "I can't make a meal with these guys hanging around me right now, can I? One seems smart, but he's difficult, likes to teach me. Another seems promising, but not set up for a serious relationship. There's a third one. He has a lot of money, but he's painfully greedy. Try to figure out which of them can make money," Sopia answered her brother. Lucy intervened in the conversation. "And why do you want to give such important issues of life to other people to manage?" John said, "You're smart and know a lot about a lot of things. It seems to me that if you set yourself a specific goal, you can quickly achieve it yourself without any men," said Lucy. "Have you been listening to Greta Thunberg to make such smart speeches?" Go on, go and learn your lessons. When you grow up, you'll understand everything. There's only smart people around. They know everything. Who would better transfer money to the card, resented Sopia. Then the mother joined the conversation. Lucy is a child, but she's right. Under the pretext of relationships or financial security, you can discreetly give into the hands of another person some very valuable part of your life. And if you get used to it, it's hard to get in over your head, Cara added. I realize that no one in this family still supports me even in such a goal as a typical purchase of a car or an apartment. It's all like a hygienic procedure for the modern man, right? If you can't support me in that, how can I achieve big goals? Sopia was indignant. She was excellent at twisting the meaning of words and manipulating others. But that doesn't go over well with her mother. Cara spent a long time speaking mentoring words that all as one passed Sofia's ears, and when she was tired, she decided to rest a little in the living room in front of the TV. But no such thing. There were guests in the living room again today. This time she saw a very interesting crowd. In the middle of the sofa sat a man of advanced years with a bald head and a big belly. By all appearances, he was even a little older than Max. Next to him sat a more imposing man, but he was busy with his appearance. He was fixing his hair or looking at his manicure. Away from him sits a typical guy who is no different from millions of others. He looks like the others even with a can of beer in his hands. And at the living room table, several women are seated in chairs. Cara realized she was in for a more interesting session today. This wasn't Max sneaking around with a woman. The skeletons in the closet of the eldest daughter turned out to be much more, and they were much more interesting. Hello, Cara. You said some very valuable words to your daughter just now, but it's a pity she doesn't understand their meaning. I tell her that all the time, but every time she distracts me with her hot dancing or immediately takes me to bed, said an elderly man with a bald head. And who are you to her? Cara asked in complete confusion. Well, why are you so harsh? You better ask Sopia herself who I am to her. I've asked her, but she's waving it off in every possible way. And so in the common people from the outside, such cases as Sopia and I are called relations of a daddy and a kept woman. Are you familiar with that slang? The older man asked. Cara clutched her heart and sat down on the edge of another sofa. My husband Steve is telling the truth. Indeed, he has been trying to devote every free minute to his family for 2 years now. But your daughter Sopia appears here and comes up with an evening entertainment for him, said one of the women. No, darling, it's not like that. I don't really want to go home to your company. I'm the one who'd like to spend time with any of these young and silly girls. Look, Angela, for example, only lives to hunt me and my friends, said the older man and gestured toward the young lady who was fixing her hair in the mirror. Oh, come on, Steve. You say yourself that you've already achieved everything you wanted. You're always bragging that you're loaded and ready to fulfill all the whims of girls like us. And why don't we take advantage of it? Said the young lady and kept fixing her hair. Well, in this matter, even I agree with you girls, said Steve's wife, who had previously looked at these young ladies. I also do not particularly stress him for these adventures. The main thing, he provides us with everything we need. Even if he wants to go to one of you for good, I have lawyers ready to shake him out of his fortune, said Steve's wife. Cara was horrified at what she was seeing and hearing. Sopia, come here immediately, she shouted to her daughter. Sopia, who was at this time applying a face mask in the bathroom in front of the mirror, walked leisurely into the living room. What's wrong, Mom? She asked in an innocent voice. I'm the one who should be asking what happened to you? Is it true what all these people are saying? Cara said and gestured towards the couch. Sopia looked at the couch first, then walked closer, felt its entire surface, walked across the room and turned to her mother. What people to you? What is saying to you? Mom, are you already talking to the TV? Sopia asked, bewildered. Yes, there sits the elderly Steve with his wife and a separate army of young ladies your age, exclaimed Cara. Oh, Mom, I'm sorry. When Daddy talked, we didn't believe what he said. I think you're really overworked. Better go to the bedroom and sleep it off, Sopia said. So you're all trying to make me look crazy. Here you are, sitting there with people telling you everything you know. Now we're gonna see if it's true. Get your phone over here, Cara told Sopia. Sopia had forgotten where her phone was. While she was looking for it, Her mother found it first and started flipping through it vigorously. Here, it says Steve, 4 incoming calls every day, dozens of summons from him. I just saw this Steve. He was sitting in our living room, telling us that you're a kept woman and he's your daddy, Cara said. What are you talking about, Mom? How could you think that? There's no one in our living room. You're hallucinating, Sopia continued to retort. Then Max, who had not spoken to his wife for several days before, intervened in the conversation. Indeed, our mom is overworked and has been walking around hallucinating all the time lately, he added. Lucy had been watching from the beginning and remained silent. When Mother became uncomfortable, she intervened in the conversation. Mom is telling the truth. Every time one of you blatantly lies, some unknown person comes along and tells the truth for you. This all happens because you are all deeply mired in lies and going about your lives in the wrong way. You don't need to make your mom crazy. You need to make sense of what's going on and draw the appropriate conclusions, Lucy said. Oh, they forgot to ask you. You go to your room and do your homework. You're not old enough to tell us how to go about our lives, said Sopia irritably. Lucy walked over to her mother and silently stroked her head. Cara closed her eyes and lay silently on the couch. Lucy thinks about whether to tell her mother about the secrets of this house or leave it as it is. A few days after the family battles happened, Lucy climbed up into the attic again to read the diary further. In the days when my family was learning to tell each other the truth, a new challenge came. Our father made a very lucrative deal and received a sack of gold coins. That day was the beginning of the end. My family could not divide this wealth among themselves. A rift began in my family. In the end, no one got the money. My mother took it to a rich Jew and exchanged it for gold bars. Then she put those bars in a safe chest and hid them in the house. So I want that in the next life my relatives will be born in the same family, that my family will be the same as now, only we don't need extra wealth. Because if people are not ready for it, it brings troubles and problems. That's what was written in the diary. Lucy closed the diary and thought. It all fit together again. Now she ran to Grandma Cindy's house to find out the rest of the story. Yes, I heard. All the trouble in this house starts with a lot of money. But in the end, that money goes to no one, Grandma Cindy said indifferently. Lucy now finally realized that her family is caught up in a serious game with mystical forces. Since she alone knows the course of events, she alone has the power to influence the fate of her family. Early the next day, she and her mother hurried to practice early in the morning. She had an important performance to make. Today, the coach wished to see Cara again, and when we met, he said, Lucy is very good. In a short time, she has greatly honed her skills. If she keeps the same pace until the end of training, she will win. There's no doubt about it. Cara thanked the coach for her efforts, and on the way she praised her daughter for her determination. Mom, you know how much money they give to the winners of such competitions, don't you? Lucy asked. Yes, I know roughly. This money will be enough for your higher education, plus you'll have enough left over for an apartment. Don't worry, I won't let it go to waste, replied Cara. What if the big money brings trouble to our family? Lucy asked. Daughter, what are your thoughts and your attitude? These are all fairy tales of stupid people. In today's world, big money will not prevent anyone. A person decides for himself whether to buy misfortune or good for himself with his money. Where did you get such thoughts? Cara asked. Lucy almost spoke out the secret of the diary from the attic in Baba Nadia's words. She didn't want her mother to suffer even more. Yesterday at work, I had an unexpected workload. Some foreign partners were coming, so they sent me to meet them. So I had to spend the whole night at the airport, then bring the guests to the city, put them in hotels. Only by evening I was free, and I didn't even need to say anything about tiredness. Max justified himself. Cara did not react to her husband's words. In order not to hear more of this nonsense, she decided to close herself in the bathroom and relax with a glass of champagne. But it was not to be. In the bathroom, she saw the same girl in the negligee again. He lied to you again. He spent the night with me. I'm the one who kept him up all night. He's the one who's been walking around with me so tired. You thought that finding out the truth about me would make him feel sorry or ashamed, but it didn't work. Now Max doubts your sanity. He suspects you might be mentally ill. which means you got almost no trump cards left, the girl in the negligee said, scrutinizing herself in the large bathroom mirror. Cara covered her ears with her hands and sat down on the edge of the tub. Well, the damsel wasn't going anywhere. She continued to recount the details of her relationship with Max. She described in colors what intimate preferences Max had. Cara couldn't take it anymore and ran out of the bathroom. If you don't believe my words, then go look. Right now she is standing in the bathroom in front of the mirror, she said to her husband with indignation. Are you at it again? I bought you sedatives and you didn't drink them. Max shook his head. Do you think I'm crazy? Then let's see who's really crazy now. John, Lucy, come here, Cara called out to the children. Lucy came right away. John didn't even seem to hear his mother call him. Lucy, daughter, look in the bathroom. Is there a strange girl in there or not? She said, wrapping her arms around her head. Lucy cautiously went into the bathroom. Hi, your mom's a screamer and she's also mentally ill. She sees everything with her own eyes and asks Max how your father can live with her. The strange girl turned to Lucy. Don't do that to my mother. You better put something on, Lucy said. Then she got out of the bath, went to her father and whispered in his ear. There she really is. Max took a deep breath, put aside his magazine and walked over to the bathroom door. Hello, beautiful stranger. Where are you hiding? Come out, I'm here. Your lover is here. Come out, beautiful. Max started spinning in place with his arms out to the side. Then he came out of the bathroom and walked over to Cara. When you were going crazy on your own, it was still acceptable. But when you dragged our daughter into it, it's too much. What's next? I'm afraid to be around you anymore, Max said. Dad, Mom's not making this up. It's all true. This house is enchanted. The residents of this house begin to see and hear more than others. I've seen it for myself, Lucy said, unable to stand the battle between her parents. Lucy, it's not nice to lie so brazenly. If Mom pressures you, you can always rely on Dad. Daddy will always understand and think of something. Tell me, what does she promise you in return for this game? Max asked his daughter. Lucy realized the pointlessness of further conversation and ran to her room. Next, she heard through the closed door how Cara snapped at her husband and ended up kicking him out the door with his things. Later, Lucy tried to call her father, but his phone was off. Only someone whispered outside her door that there was no point in looking for her father, as he was already in the arms of his mistress and even glad that he managed to get away from the family forever. Several days have passed since the incident. Family members still doubt Cara's adequacy. When Lucy confirms her visions, they believe that the mother and youngest daughter are scheming to influence other family members. But none of them intends to believe in the mystical properties of the new house. Cara brought Lucy home from practice and was about to rest. Lucy went into the kitchen to make dinner from a recipe she had just mastered yesterday. Cara's cell phone rang. She saw a familiar number on the screen. It was her buddy Barbara. Barbara, hi. You've been missing? I thought you and Mickey had gone away or forgotten all about us. Cara greeted her. Yes, we did go on a trip. We got back last week. But I've heard some bad news about you. What's going on with Max? Barbara asked. He's gone off with his mistress. How come? You let him go just like that. You're not going to discuss it? I don't know yet. I don't have the energy to think about the future. We need to deal with the present, said Cara. Oh, I don't recognize my energetic Cara. I think this is a really big deal. Now you just be patient and stay home. Mickey and I are on our way over right now, Barbara said and hummed up. Cara didn't mind catching up with old friends she hadn't seen in a while, especially since her family had never had any secrets from these people. They had children who had grown up together. They used to spend vacations and vacations together often. Only lately, they had become a little distant. It didn't take long for the guests to arrive. Barbara gave her gifts to Lucy and hurried to have a heart-to-heart talk with Cara. Mickey followed obediently. It's a nice house, Cara. I can see you chose it yourself. I guess the quality of life has improved here, Mickey asked. I could argue about the quality of life, Cara said, referring to the weirdness of the house. But overall, it's an interesting place. It won my heart right away. I was drawn here, as if I had been longing for some important task, she added. The guests sat down in the living room at a large table. After a while, Lucy served a hot dinner and sat down with the guests. The topic of the evening was the relationship between Cara and Max, who had left the family. Barbara was really worried about her friends. "Cara, you should meet with Max and talk about this like adults. How is it that you raised 3 wonderful children, lived together for so many years, gained assets, and now you're on opposite sides? It shouldn't be like that. You should at least appreciate your common past," Barbara said. "I do, no doubt about it, but Max has a lot of questions. For a long time I tried to turn a blind eye to his adventures, but he was in no hurry to come to his senses. Well, that's his choice. If he wants a divorce, he'll get a divorce. If he wants to come back, I'll have to think very seriously about it," Cara said. "There's no reason for you to get a divorce. Apart from this misunderstanding in the form of his current affairs, you have no problems in your relationship," Barbara said. "Yes, especially this misunderstanding is not worth mentioning either. It's not a big deal for a man to go to the left. Consequently, he will forget the story in a couple of months," Mickey added. Barbara, who had previously been calm and gave wise advice, turned into an angry fury in an instant. Mickey seemed afraid of his own careless phrase, but it was too late. Barbara reacted immediately. "Now, what do you mean by that, my dear? Do you mean to say that your story with that dyed store clerk has already been erased from our memory? Are you taking my loyalty personally now?" Barbara asked. "No, darling, I didn't. That's not what I meant. I meant to say that in such cases only a woman's wisdom like yours can save a family. I'm telling the truth," pleaded Mickey, who was barely recovering from his row with Barbara. Cara had to make an effort to calm Barbara down and bring the topic of conversation back to a more constructive direction. In a moment, everyone let out their emotions and there was silence. The only thing playing was the TV. It was showing a soap drama where an old man was having an affair with a young girl. "Barbara's on again. You give them all your youth, all your energy and strength, and he goes and has fun on the side. That in life and in the movies it seems to be a pattern of life," she said and sighed heavily. Mickey felt uncomfortable. He realized that all this was a stone in his garden. Even if he had nothing with the store clerk, he had recently had to explain himself very stubbornly to his wife. And now Cara's case had triggered a new wave of emotion in Barbara, and Mickey would have to reap the consequences. "I'm going out on the balcony for a smoke. You two talk among yourselves," Mickey said and headed for the balcony. At this point, Lucy felt that Aunt Barbara needed to be distracted from the family battles, so she suggested a little tour of the garden. Barbara agreed. Cara decided to tidy up the table and stayed in the house. The most interesting thing was happening at this time with Mickey. He met an unfamiliar handsome man on the balcony. Mickey said hello to him and he introduced himself as if he had been waiting for this. "Greetings, brother. My name's Barry. You don't know anything about me, but I was just being remembered and I ended up here," the strange man said. "Are you related to Cara or Max?" Mickey asked. "No, they don't know about me either. I'm an old acquaintance of your Barbara's. She's always giving you jealous fits, isn't she?" "Well, that's only one side of it. The other side of those attacks contains a huge fear of actually confronting your infidelity. To ease that fantasy blow, your Barbara sometimes likes to go left," said the strange Barry and winked one eye at Mickey. "What are you talking about? This can't be happening. Who are you people?" Mickey was outraged. "I'm her regular lover. Even Cara knows. She just knows how to keep a secret. I've been here a while. I think I'll go home," Barry said, shook Mickey's hand and walked into the living room. Mickey had a strong stamina and character. He never gave in to emotion. That's why he decided to discuss the conversation with the mysterious Misha on the balcony at home, and here, as a guest, he pretended that nothing had happened. The next morning, Cara woke up to an early call on her phone. It was Barbara. "Are you out of your mind? You think I can't tell everyone about your affairs with my manager?" she shouted into the phone. "Barbara, I don't know what you're talking about. What happened?" "What's wrong is that Mickey found out something about Barry. You're the only one who knows about my relationship with him. Yesterday, when Lucy and I were out in the garden, you stayed at home. He was smoking on the balcony. I take it you told him everything." "How could you?" "You know I was in the heat of the moment, don't you? It's all in the past, but Mickey won't listen to me," she said. "Barbara, I've always told you I don't judge your actions. Besides, what's the point of me telling your husband all this? You've seen for yourself the state I'm in right now, so your resentment and doubts are unfounded," Cara answered her. Then how could he know? I didn't dare tell you, but these things can happen in our house. You wouldn't believe it, but I've encountered it myself on more than one occasion. It's probably a mystical thing. I'm powerless here, Cara said. Barbara, of course, didn't believe her words. What kind of nonsense is it that mystical forces reveal all the secrets of the residents and guests of this house? Who would believe such nonsense? If Barbara was angry with her friend from the morning, then after talking to her she seriously thought, maybe Max was right and Cara had really lost her mind. In any case, now it was necessary to close her mouth somehow so that she would not tell Barbara's piquant secret further. Now Barbara was seriously worried and began to think about how to deal with the crazy Cara Markovna. But all these explanations had no effect on Mickey. That same evening he packed his things in a suitcase and left the house without any explanation. For Barbara, who was already very afraid of losing him, it was a real blow. She blamed her pal Cara all day long. Several months passed, during which many more strange occurrences happened. Each of these cases caused discord and scandals between people. Lucy watched the events with great surprise. People keep talking about the importance of truth. They demand honesty and truthfulness from others. And when they are confronted with it themselves, they don't want to accept the truth, and serious conflicts instantly arise. Her childish mind was constantly preoccupied with these issues. She sees her mother suffering from the amount of truth that has become available to her in this house. It turns out that the only person who doesn't lie to Cara is Lucy. Such truth only brings mother and daughter closer together. Meanwhile, all acquaintances and friends have managed to dub Cara crazy. They now justify Max and his departure from the family. Some even do not hesitate to express themselves and openly say that to live with a crazy woman, adequate man is not obliged. These conversations also reach Cara. The atmosphere in the house is tense to the max. Lucy went up to the attic again today. She leafed through the diary and saw no new entries today. A girl who lived almost 200 years ago describes exactly the same events. Lucy decided to take her mind off all this and started to put the attic in order. Going through old books and paintings, Lucy was convinced that all these things are not randomly collected here. Each of them had a story to tell. In order not to get involved in some mystical adventure, again, Lucy decided not to get carried away with them, so she just went through them quickly to cover them tightly with a dark cloth and never come back here again. When she moved all the books from one corner to another corner, there was only one unassuming wooden chest of irregular size left. The chest was not tall, but it was wide enough. The chest was perfectly smooth on the outside, with no room for a lock on it. As Lucy was groping it on each side, she bumped the corner of the chest hard with one foot. The chest creaked slightly and its lid lifted. Only now did Lucy realize that this was no random object. She carefully lifted the lid of the chest and saw something massive wrapped in a thick cloth. When she carefully opened the edge of the cloth, she couldn't believe her eyes. The edge of shiny yellow metal was revealed. And when Lucy easily removed a piece of dense cloth, then in the wooden chest rows of gold bars were lying in rows. Oh, that's what Grandma Cindy had been talking about, and what the unknown girl had written in her diary. It was gold, the sudden wealth that was killing every family. It was the gold that had caused tragic events in this house, and the gold itself had never done anyone any good. Lucy ran to her mother. "Mother, I should have told you something a long time ago, but I kept it from you," she said. "But don't scare me now. What else do I know?" Cara asked, frightened. "Come on, I'll show you better." Lucy took her mother's hand and dragged her to the attic to show her fine. "What can I say, my daughter? You and I are fabulously rich now. We could even leave this strange house and buy any other house we want. But for some reason, I have a bad feeling about all this," said Cara, and sat down on a stack of books. Lucy and Cara thought for a long time in the attic about the fate of this wealth. By that time, Sopia had already arrived home. She had heard a noise upstairs and was already climbing the stairs. When she saw her mother and sister sitting next to a stack of gold bars, she almost shrieked with emotion. "Mom, what is this?" "So you and Daddy didn't spend everything you earned earlier from trading. So we are fabulously rich and can afford anything we want," exclaimed Sopia. "No, you can't use it. This gold has a tragic history. It won't do us any good anyway." "Mom, Let's wrap it all back up and close it up. We'll assume we haven't seen anything, said Lucy and started to wrap the bars with a thick cloth. Hey, you crazy kid. You don't understand the hard work that goes into every dime. Your parents buy everything for you. You don't have to worry about your expenses. So don't stop others from living like normal people, said Sopia and rushed to the trunk. Stop, Sopia. Lucy is right. We don't need to rush. Things like this don't just go unclaimed. What if someone hid the gold here on purpose and is waiting to take it? And what if the owners come and demand their gold? We have a lot to think about. Lucy is right. Close the chest back up and let's go inside, Cara said. Sofia's indignation was unbounded. She tried to relax in the bathtub, but she couldn't. The shiny bars of gold kept spinning in front of her eyes. She had already looked up on the internet how much each bar was worth. At the most rough estimate, there were about 20 bars in the chest. If they were all converted into money, the family could live comfortably for the rest of their lives. In the evening, John arrived on time, as if he could smell the riches. No sooner had he sat down at the table in the kitchen, Sopia immediately shared the important news. Topic: no way you cannot guess what happened today in our family. Let me guess, Dad came back, or Mom's mood suddenly improved. No, that's not news. Turn on the imagination. Do not limit yourself to any thoughts, flirted Sopia. Maybe you finally dumped your old lover and found a normal guy. Maybe you're finally moving out of your parents' house. Am I guessing now? You're an idiot. What does this have to do with my love life? I told you it's about our family. That I have no imagination. If you don't want to, you don't have to tell me. I'd had enough of this family's problems. So now you can consider this family's problems over. Mom found a chest of gold bars in the attic today. Can you believe it? By my count, there's about 20 bars in there, but Mom's a little cautious about exchanging them for money. I thought you said you wanted to go into business with Sam. Well, go at your mom and talk to her. We need to sell these bars to the bank immediately and buy everything we need for everyone, because the money is flowing away like water, Sopia told her brother. Is this for real? Is it really gold or is it a fake? John said incredulously. If you don't believe me, we can go and see it, but we better make sure the little one doesn't disturb us. She's got some cockroaches in her head too. She says this gold brings bad luck, Sopia said. John didn't believe it at first, but Sopia convinced him. True, they didn't manage to get to the attic. Lucy noticed everything and stopped them. Sopia was really angry now. You little one, you've had enough of being underfoot. Do your homework and go to bed, Sopia hissed. You mustn't touch that gold. You're already in bad enough shape. And with this gold, it could get even worse. There's a record. I read it all, Lucy said and stood in front of the attic door. Sopia realized that persuasion did not work on her stubborn sister. She walked over to her and tried to pull her away by the arm. At that moment, Lucy shifted her foot unsuccessfully and rolled down the stairs. Hearing the crashing sound, Cara ran out of the room. Seeing Lucy lying at the bottom of the stairs, Cara ran to her. Lucy seemed to have fainted. When she fell, the impact was on her head. That's evidenced by the broken nose and the blood dripping from it. Call an ambulance, the mother shouted to her older children. Sopia nudged John in the side and nodded her head, signaling him to call an ambulance. John took his time heading into the kitchen but didn't find his phone there. At that time, Cara had her hand on Lucy's pulse and sensed something wrong. The girl was barely showing signs of life. But older kids don't really care about that. There's no time to wait. The ambulance will take a long time to get here. Let's get her to the hospital. John, take her to the car, Cara said and ran to her room to get her bag. Cara managed to get Lucy to the hospital in time. The doctor later reported that the girl had suffered a serious head injury and would have to stay in the hospital for a couple weeks. John left his mother by his sister's side at the hospital, himself rushing back home. Sofia's words about the bars of gold in the attic kept him on his toes. When he returned, Sopia was calmly moving the bars from a wooden chest into a gym bag. When she saw her brother, she was a little startled. John couldn't believe his eyes. Wait, is this really gold? Are all these bars gold? Or maybe it's just metal? John picked up one bar and started to check it out. No, they're real. Here, each one has a code on it. Wait, where are you going to take them? John asked Sopia. It doesn't matter where, the main thing is to bring them to the nearest bank tomorrow and get the money, Sopia puffed. While John came to his senses, Sopia managed to put all the ingots in her bag. So what are you waiting for? Are you with me or not? Sopia said and tried to lift the bag, but she couldn't. It's about 20 kilos, no less. Don't you dare go outside with that, said John. So you help me, or we'll just keep waiting for whom knows what, said Sopia. Are you out of your mind? With a load like that, you'll be robbed at the first corner. That's not how you do things. First, you have to find buyers, make sure they are reliable, and then do something. And anyway, we should at least talk to Mom first, John said. Tired of arguing with her brother, Sopia was finally angry. She kicked the bag with her foot, then took out 2 bars and hurried to her room. After that, no one close to Sopia saw Sopia in the house. Lucy was discharged from the hospital 2 weeks later. On the day of discharge, her mother and brother came to pick her up from the hospital. After they got in the car, Lucy said, "Mom, don't be mad, but there's a surprise waiting for us at home." Cara flinched slightly and asked, "Lucy, daughter, don't scare me like that again. What kind of surprise?" "My heart can't take any more surprises," she said jokingly. "When we arrive, you'll see for yourself." When they arrived home, Cara saw the table set in the living room. She thought Sopia had returned, but she was met on the doorstep by Max with a bouquet of flowers for her daughter. "Mom, I didn't mean to upset you. In fact, Daddy's been coming to see me at the hospital since the first day. And today I wanted to see him at home. Let him stay with us today," Lucy said. Cara didn't object. Knowing the oddities of their home, the family sat at the table in silence. Each of them tried not to say a word, lest it turn into a mystical seance. "Mom, Dad, we recently discovered something in the attic. Now it's time to decide the fate of this fortune. You know, I have big plans. I'm gonna start my own business, and the money from the sale of a bar of gold would be very useful," John said suddenly. "What bars?" Max asked in surprise. "Gold bars, Dad, real gold bars. The former owners of the house must have forgotten them. Lucy found them in the attic. But foolishly, she thinks we shouldn't touch them," said John. "Come on, let's go and see what's in there," said Max and headed for the attic. "Wait, you can't touch that gold until you learn to tell each other the truth. Otherwise, they will bring great and misfortune," said Lucy. "Daughter, what nonsense is this? We'll just look and come back. Before we do anything with them, we'll think about it," said Max and left the living room. At that moment, a crowd of young men appeared from nowhere in the living room. Apparently, each of them was having a lot of fun. Some of them were dancing with champagne in their hands. Some of them were holding the white powder in a clear bag and treating the others. A close friend of John's, named Sam, turned to Cara. "Mom, your son's life is actually running on drugs. He needs the money for business, and he needs the business to continually generate income. By his logic, this constant income will help him buy high in any amount and at any time. And now he is limited by his salary, but his soul demands new and new portions of entertainment. Look at us, we're all young, beautiful, promising. But we didn't choose the path of career and labor, but the path of enjoying life. John joined us a year ago. He tries to break out of our circle sometimes, but we won't let him. And he is very well with us," said the young man and inhaled the white powder. Lucy also witnessed this picture. She and her mother realized without further ado that John had long ago fallen into bad company. Cara had guessed it before, but John had never admitted it. This time the secret was revealed in time. Father and son saw the gold bars with their own eyes, sat near the pile for a while, then returned to the living room. "Indeed, this is a decent fortune. We should gradually exchange everything for money and invest it somewhere profitable. Thanks to this find, each of us can finally quit our hated jobs and just enjoy life. There's enough money for everyone," Max said. Lucy was looking forward to finishing dinner. A plan spontaneously matured in her head about how to keep her family safe from tragedy. Today was exactly 6 months since Lucy and Cara had been left alone together. A month ago, Cara felt sick. When she went to the hospital, they could not diagnose her correctly for a long time. Only after a while the doctor told me the disappointing news. She had a serious illness. The same day, the The same minute, she decided that she would do everything possible to get out of the clutches of the insidious disease. She also decided not to tell Lucy about her illness. A few days had passed since Cara had already laid down completely. Now she needs constant care, but still reassures Lucy that she will soon be back on her feet. Lucy believes her mother's words and waits for that day. In recent days, they have developed a joint evening ritual to dream about the future before going to bed. "Mommy, I think John, Papa, and Sopia will come back to us soon," Lucy says. "They will definitely come back. We are a family. Just a big favor to you. When they come, try not to remember anything about the past. They will come back to us different, having realized their mistakes," says Cara. "Mom, when I grow up, I will never disappoint you. You will only be proud of me. And then you and I will go somewhere together to the sea. You'll nurse my children. You'll dream of peace from them. But my children will be hanging around your neck all the time," says Lucy. Of course, we should dream of good things. But then there's reality, and it can put a person in front of a fact at any minute. If a person knows this, it will be easier for him to accept these facts. If a person thinks that the future should be only what one wants it to be, then it can be very painful when it comes. Therefore, one has to live with the idea that the moment in love will have to be let go, Cara tells her daughter. Lucy nods and agrees with everything she says. Cara agonizes over the fact that she can't tell her daughter the bitter truth about the immediate future. But it doesn't seem fair of her to keep silent either. If she remains silent, her natural outcome will be seen by Lucy as an unexpected tragedy. So she tries to convey the truth to her daughter in various roundabout ways. Lucy has noticed it. As soon as they begin to talk about their dreams together, her mother immediately begins to tell the philosophy that dreams may not come true. Today they had a visitor, Aunt Barbara, who hadn't been over for a long time. "Cara, why are you making a mess and huddled in a corner?" Barbara asked from the doorstep. "I'm a little sick, but it will pass soon," said Cara in a quiet voice. "But what porridge are you talking about?" No one knew Cara's diagnosis and illness but her. Of course, Barbara didn't take her current condition seriously. She came to talk about something else. "I've waited so long for you to invite me to a frank conversation after that misunderstanding between us. And you're walking around like it never happened." That's how she started her conversation. "Barbara, what misunderstanding are you talking about? And why should I apologize to you?" Cara asked. "Oh, so you've forgotten all about it. You're the one who told my Mickey about my buddy Barry, that I've been having an affair with him for years. Mickey actually believed it. He left home 6 months ago and never came back. So, my dear, you're the one who ruined my family." Barbara was indignant. "I'll tell you once, but you'll have to decide whether you believe it or not. So, in this house, in some strange way, everything secret is revealed. I've thought a lot. I've talked to a lot of knowledgeable people, and I've realized you come to this house to face the truth and to grow above your weaknesses. If you and your husband have not been able to overcome this crisis, then you need to delve even deeper into this issue and still find common ground in your relationship. As for me, I didn't tell your Mickey anything, so your claims are unfounded." Cara said these words slowly, emphasizing each word. But Barbara was used to answering at once, rather than thinking about the meaning of what she said. They did not understand each other. Barbara said many hurtful words to Cara and went home. Cara was very sorry that the conflict could not be resolved. She lamented that with her last breath, this unresolved conflict might be troubling her soul. After Barbara left, Cara felt much worse. If she used to go for a walk in the garden at least once a day, now this joy is no longer available to her. Lucy tries her best to cheer up her mother, but her efforts have no effect. Today, she decided to have a serious talk with her daughter. "Lucy, if our loved ones ever come back to us, try not to judge them for their life choices anymore. And also try not to stop them from using those gold bars," she said. "Why is that? Aren't we in enough trouble from them?" Lucy asked. "I think the trouble is not the gold, but the fact that there have been so many lies in our family. But it's not about you and me, it's about them. The fact that they are all gone from this house now shows that they are working hard to learn their lessons. They will surely come to realize their mistakes. And then no wealth will be dangerous to them," Cara said. "If they can get those ingots from the well, let them use them," Lucy replied briefly. Indeed, a few years ago, when Lucy had just gotten out of the hospital, John and Max had disagreed on how to rationalize the gold. Eventually, their conflict escalated to a family fight. Cara took it the hardest. To save the situation, Lucy again came up with an unconventional way out. At night, she discreetly dragged all the ingots from the attic to the vegetable garden and then dumped them all in an old abandoned well. She told only her mother about it. And she told Max and John that the former owners of the house had come and taken the gold. They refused to believe it, but there was nothing they could do. Thus, mother and daughter hoped to establish peace in the family, but Max and John were even more upset now. Both of them left home in those days and still haven't returned. Cara deliberately does not inform them about her health condition. She has little desire to talk to anyone from the outside world since she was dubbed crazy. She only feels sorry for her daughter. But deep down, she's sure that Lucy will make it through and make her way into the big time. Lucy, stop sitting by my bed. You've got school and you haven't even had a good night's sleep. Go to your room and sleep properly, Cara said, and barely persuaded her daughter to go to her room. In the morning, Cara asked Lucy to get some of her neighbors to sit with her until lunch. Lucy left the house and went straight to Grandma Cindy's house. But at that moment, Grandma Cindy was on her way to the house. "I know, baby. I know I'm needed in this house today. I'm on my way," Grandma Cindy said and quickened her steps. Lucy didn't pay much attention to her words, but just hurried to school. When she came back from school, the gate of the house was open wide. There were many people around the house and inside. All the relatives and acquaintances seemed to have gathered. Lucy was met by Max himself and said, "Mommy has left us, my daughter. I can't believe it. She is no longer with us," sobbed Max. Her mother's death came as a complete surprise to Lucy. It was only now that Lucy realized that her mother was not really on the mend, as she had convinced herself. Only after a while she realized that her mother tried to make her understand the inevitable outcome, but did not dare to tell her directly. "It is a great happiness to see your parents off on their last journey. My mother told me that she buried her 3 children with her own hands. That's a real grief. And my 3 children are alive, healthy, and full of strength. Thank you, God, for this happiness," said Cara before her death several times. Only now Lucy realized that these words were said so that she did not grieve much after her departure to the next world. Only a strong-spirited person could do such a thing. The funeral was over, the guests left, and Lucy was left home alone. Max offered her his company, but she declined. One of those days, she went up to the attic and pulled out the diary again. She shuddered, but why be afraid now when so much had already happened? This time, Lucy came to the attic with her inkpot and pen, which she had bought at the stationery store. This time, she did not read the lines from the diary. Today, she came to rewrite it. "My name is Lucy. I was born in 2006 to a family of an accountant and an engineer. Our family settled in this house to learn honesty and truthfulness. But here was a lesson that proved too hard for my family. My father was the first to fail this lesson. He just turned his back on us. My sister learned the truth about her life, but couldn't grasp the meaning. My brother tried the hardest to grasp the true meaning of what was happening, but he was powerless before his own greed. All this was happening in front of my mother's eyes. She couldn't handle so much truth and passed away prematurely. I realized that I was the same Amalia who had lived almost 200 years ago with her family in this house. Judging from this diary, no family has ever been able to pass this lesson with dignity. Therefore, I ask God to consider this lesson closed and to release the sorceress powers in this house in all directions. From now on, whoever lives in this house, nothing unusual will happen to him. One should forget about unexpected riches, because the old well is already filled with sand and garbage. The gold will be found by our descendants after hundreds of years. And in this house, let there be peace and quiet now, even if it costs deceit and lies between family members." Lucy, 2021. There was a new entry in the diary. 4 years had passed unnoticed. During this time, Lucy met the international students who were interning in the settlement that gladly agreed to occupy the second floor and attic of the house for a commensurate payment. In addition to a steady income, Lucy received decent company where she could develop her language skills and discuss education and development issues. Her new friends were so united in spirit that they became like new siblings for Lucy. They were the ones who helped Lucy choose the right university abroad. It was they who spent long evenings helping her to prepare for her enrollment. As a result, Lucy was able to enter one of the best universities in Europe remotely and was already preparing to leave. On one of those days, there was a sudden knock on the door. Lucy went to open it. She was extremely surprised to see a gray-haired man of advanced age at the gate. "Lucy, my daughter, how you have grown. How beautiful you've become. I've missed you so much." Max was fawning over his daughter. "Really? I doubt you miss me. But you're just in time. Come inside," Lucy said and invited her father inside. "How things have changed around here. Did your grandmother move in with you?" Max asked with surprise, looking at the fresh renovation and perfect order in the house. "No, my friends lived here. They wanted to clean it up, and I just helped them. Now they only come back in the fall," Lucy said. "Friends, you say? They live here? How many are there?" Max asked cautiously. 8 people, and they are all from different countries. They live here for a small fee. There is enough room for everyone. Why do you ask?" Lucy posed a counter question. Max was not immediately able to answer. However, Lucy guessed what had happened. "Let me guess, the realization came to you that you left your family for nothing. I take it your young friend is finished and you've come to this house for good?" Lucy asked her father. Max nodded his head silently. Lucy didn't comment on the situation, remembering her mother's words not to condemn her loved ones for their mistakes. Max deep down felt grateful to his daughter for showing sensitivity and wisdom. True, he felt guilty that he hadn't even participated in this girl's upbringing. On a hot summer afternoon, Max was tidying up the vegetable garden. Lucy was doing some rearranging inside the house, mentally planning her imminent departure. At that moment, the doorbell rang again. Lucy was surprised, as she was not expecting anyone today. Opening the door, she froze in surprise. "John, are you brother? What are you doing here?" Lucy asked in surprise. "If you let me in, we'll have time to talk about everything," John said. Then John opened the trunk of his luxury car and began to drag his hotels into the house. There were quite a few of them. Then they sat down at the table and a heart-to-heart talk took place. John was very sorry that he could not see his mother off on her last journey. It was understandable, because in those days he was in prison. The bad company he'd gotten involved with had put him behind bars. But he was lucky enough to get out of jail a lot sooner than he did. If I'd had a lot of money at the time, that company would have sucked me in. I wouldn't have been able to get out of jail so easily. It was only after that lesson that I realized how right our mother was, John said. Lucy listened silently and made no comment on her brother's story. Apparently, he hadn't been here long. From what he told her, he'd been working on his career since he'd been in prison, and now he was doing just fine. The house was a little warmer and more cheerful now, but it lasted exactly 1 week. A week later, the doorbell rang again. This time, Lucy was not surprised by the new guest. It was her sister, Sopia. "What, Lucy? Didn't recognize her? You didn't even invite her in?" Sopia stood at the gate. Of course, Lucy invited her in. But in general, Lucy remained cold towards her sister. Sopia was trying to get her younger sister's attention. "I'd like to take you shopping, and then we'll sit somewhere in a cafe and talk," Sopia insisted. "I don't really like such places, so you can go yourself," Lucy resisted. "You seem to have grown up, but you are still such a fool. Don't you realize that what I really want to talk to you about is sister to sister? I have so much news I want to tell you. You have no idea how my life has changed over the years. Who would I tell all this to if not my own sister?" Sopia insisted. Lucy had to force herself to spend one day with her sister. It wasn't out of love or affection for her, but out of curiosity. Lucy wanted to know what had happened to make Sopia change so much. Actually, Mom was right. I wish I had realized what she was saying in time. Indeed, that old Steve had taken advantage of me and my youth. Not even 6 months later, his attitude went beyond all limits. I was enslaved to him because I worked for his friend's company. He and I had a big quarrel, and one day I lost everything. My job, money, rented apartment, and even the documents he took away from me. That's when my eyes were opened. From that moment on, I decided never to give anyone else the right to control my life, especially not a man. I understood why Mom was so brokenhearted about it. Sopia continued her confession, but Lucy listened to her sister with the edge of her ear and decided to keep her answers to herself, because that's what Mom asked. Lucy, John, I have a brilliant idea. Why don't we go to our mother's grave tomorrow morning? I don't even know where she is, Sopia said a couple of days later. I was there last week. If you want, you can go with your father. I'll drive you the way to find her grave. I'll stay home, Lucy said. She had no particular desire to talk to her sister, but Sopia wasn't leaving her any chance to turn her back on her. Apparently, Sopia had also successfully come out of the big shock, and she was doing just fine now. And the apartment is bought, and someone gave her a car. She managed to show a picture of her baby, who is now left with a nanny, and her husband was indeed a very noble and good-natured man. Here was the whole family assembled, but Lucy had no joy in her soul from this company. When the next morning they went to visit her mother's grave, Lucy sat at the window with a cup of tea, and a wave of a dream came over her that she would sell this house now, take all the money and buy somewhere modern apartment on the top floor where peace would only dream. It was her heart's desire. Lucy immediately forgot about it. Once again remembering her mother's admonition not to judge her brother, sister, and father, Lucy decided to cook her specialty tonight and have a family dinner. Of course, the elders were very excited about it, but just as the family sat down at the table, the doorbell rang again. This time it was Max himself who went to open the gate. An unfamiliar woman and a man said that they had already come to the house and talked to the owner. Max invited them into the house, since that was the case. Lucy, hello dear. My name is Ariana and this is my husband Archie. We've been looking for a house in this neighborhood for a while, and we thought we'd stop by. You're selling this house, aren't you? The mysterious woman asked. Lucy had never had such thoughts before, but now she was not confused and said, Yes, I am. Further events were already developing on a separate mystical scenario.